And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, Detroit Tigers podcast. Kieran Steckley here, Cody Stavenhagen, and Austin Jackson bringing to you live here to end the week. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, you know the drill. Please subscribe as we are getting pretty close. We are pretty close to opening day, ever so close, Cody and Austin. How you guys doing?
I'm good, man. I'm glad we're done with this little freeze we just had. I'm done with that, man. This is Texas, and we got this weird weather. But other than that, we're good, man. We're doing good over here.
It's a nice time of year to be in Florida, right? Freezing in Texas, freezing, of course, in Michigan. I missed out on the big snow, so yeah, I'm happy to be down here watching some baseball. We saw Tarik Skubal, his first start of the spring, and it was about what you would expect from Tarik Skubal. 19 pitches, 14 strikes, quick and easy. Hit 100 on the radar gun, threw a nasty slider to get a punch out, induce some. I mean, a couple guys hit it fairly hard on the line, but hey, you get some first pitch outs. That's nothing to complain about. And no surprise here, but AJ Hinch officially announced Tarik is on track to start opening day in Los Angeles. Tarik, last year, that was a big deal. It's his first one, right? This year, it was kind of like, yeah, you never know how many you'll get to start. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the challenge of facing the Dodgers. But just kind of business as usual for Tarik Skubal these days.
Well, part of the business as usual for Tarik is that we did see like intense Tarik today. And I want to emphasize the C part. This was broadcast. You could watch the game unlike earlier in the week. So thank you, Major League Baseball, for that. And also had the tracks and all that stuff. So it was perfect. But we saw the intense Tarik Skubal. Probably number one moment for me is he's late into his windup. There's a time call. Umpire grants it. Tarik, you could probably, I don't know. I wonder if you asked him, Cody, like who he's more mad at, the hitter or the umpire. I'd actually be pretty curious if he would be honest there, what the answer would be for that. But he was upset, is what I would say. And next pitch, 100 miles an hour. Next pitch, slider, made him look like a fool. End of inning. And it's not very often you watch like the first inning of a spring training game. You have the pitcher staring down home plate as he's walking. So I thought that was a great moment. Basically, just to say, like, it's good. Tarik's back. Tarik is he's still Tarik, and that's all you want really to see today.
Hey, you said you asked who that 100 was for. I think it's for both. So both the 100 was for the umpire, just in case the catcher misses it, right? That slider is for you for calling time out. And go sit with this. You know what I mean? The 100 is for the umpire, just in case, the catcher miss it. Take that, and then you go sit in the truck with the slider for calling time out when I'm midway through my windup. Go sit in the truck. That's just my thinking on it anyway.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense to me. I didn't think about it like that, but yeah. Well, like what that really kind of brings to mind, and Austin, I'm really curious, like what your thought process was when you were playing. Is like we joke about spring training being too long. We joke about like what does it matter? But of course, like it does matter for these guys. It is still their livelihood. It was at one time your livelihood. But like the Tigers are coming off a playoff run, and the first time they're playing like real competitive baseball for the most part. I know some guys do some winter leagues and all that stuff, but like it's spring training. So like the way I text it to you guys, it's like it counts, but the stats don't count. You know what I mean? So like, how do you kind of get mentally and because physically we've talked about with the training, but like mentally amped and ready to go for like spring training games, especially when the stakes aren't what you just experienced just a couple months ago?
I mean, these athletes, they're competitive. It's going to be really hard to take that competitive nature out of these athletes, no matter what it is that we're doing, whether we're playing a card game or whether it's just a spring training at bat. We're competing, so we're there, and those at bats matter. Those at bats matter. For young guys as well as seasoned veteran guys. The veteran guys are really more about getting their bodies acclimated again, putting on cleats, probably for the first time in months, getting out on the grass and running in the grass in the outfield, getting out, on the base paths and running and just getting their bodies back used to being in that grind. But for young guys, this really matters. They have an opportunity to be in front of people that are making decisions. So when they come in there, it's very important for them to take it serious because they don't know, how long they're going to be up there and be able to get those at bats in front of people that are making these decisions. And also they want to, leave that impression on them. Like when I was with the Yankees, I knew I had no shot in making it with the big league team. I'm not playing in front of Bernie Williams. It just wasn't going to happen. But at the same time, I knew that if I went up there and I competed and I showed them that I had the ability, because you're facing big league pitchers for the most part. So I wanted to get up there and show them that I had the ability to play at that level, knowing that if we leave spring training, at least I put something in their mind, knowing that, hey, if somebody gets hurt or somebody's not producing, this guy has the ability to come up here and show what he's capable of doing. And then, like I said, you have those middle tier guys, 2, 3, 4 years, who are working to try to get better each and every day. They want to continue to build on each and every year. So whether it's working on a new pitch, to add to the arsenal, to be a little bit more nasty, or it's, working on, more contact. This is the time to do it for those guys. And those guys take it serious. It's really hard to take that competitive nature out of these athletes.
Well, it's a cliche that gets thrown around a lot this time of year, Austin. But is it true? Is it true that like pitchers are always ahead of hitters like early in spring training? And if it is true, like what does that really like mean?
It just means you got down here a little bit earlier than me. It'll catch up eventually. But no, I mean, the truth of the matter, I mean, yeah, they're ahead. I mean, think about it. They have control over everything anyway. Even during the season, I mean, they got control. You're trying to guess what somebody is throwing at you. They're spinning it, doing all these different type of things. And so it's all about timing. So they're pretty much they're ramped up to start throwing, and you're just trying to see the ball. So the pitchers have a slight advantage in that sense, but it's not like they're not going out there trying to like mid-August form right now. These guys are just trying to feel for the strike zone, trying to get a feel for their pitches. And so it's not like they're that much ahead, but it's really more so because hitters haven't been seeing pitching. Now, I know now more so than when I was playing, guys are playing a lot more in the offseason. Guys are hitting off, 95, 100-mile-per-hour pitches in the offseason. That's just something that I wasn't doing. So when I got to spring training, it was a little bit of time there that I needed to make that adjustment. But they're clearly going. I mean, good pitching is going to be good hitting any day. So they always got the advantage, no matter what.
It's funny. Sometimes you can even tell. You get young guys in spring training and they're trying to make the team, and sometimes they're a little jumpy and they're chasing and they're pressing. And then the opposite of that. And I'm still thinking about a few days ago, Casey Mize struck out Paul Goldschmidt on a slider. It was a pretty good slider. It was like a strike-to-strike slider. So I'm just kind of like, why did Goldschmidt not swing at that pitch? And I don't know. There's a veteran guy. He's won an MVP. Like, was part of him just tracking, or like, even if he didn't recognize the spin and thought it was fastball, I think he would have swung. So that's been replaying in my mind. It was like his first or second game of spring. I don't think he was too concerned with the fact he struck out on that pitch. No,
I mean he's tracking. The craziest thing I remember hearing from Torrey Hunter is like my first 10 at bats, I just try to get jammed. I'm like, what? And hit the ball like right over there to the second baseman or to the first baseman. Like I'm like that. Nobody questioned him on it because you knew who Torrey Hunter was. You knew what his number was going to be at the end of the season because that's what they always were. So who am I to question you letting the ball almost hit your knuckles for 10 at bats? Obviously, it's doing something, but for him, it was about letting the ball get deep. So you were talking about guys being jumpy. That's what he wanted to control. He wanted to make sure that he was seeing the ball as long as possible at the beginning first before I start going out and trying to attack pitches out front. I need to be able to get my foot down, see the ball, and let the ball travel to me before I make that decision to attack it. So that's what he would do. Guys like Manny Ramirez, he told me Manny Ramirez, which is who he got it from, he would do the same thing. They would try to get jammed. Now that does not sound right, but these are some of the best hitters, that's ever played the game. So it's something to it, and I'm sure that he could hit that ball probably 9 out of 10 times. But early on in spring training, you're taking a lot more pitches. You're letting a lot of really good pitches go by because you want to make sure that you're in a good position to hit and see the ball. That's it.
Hair is so much more than what you see when you look in the mirror. With Nutrafol's science-backed whole-body approach, nourish growth from within and achieve your best hair yet.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
Physician formulated with 100% drug-free ingredients, Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting key root causes of thinning like stress, hormones, and aging through whole body health.
Start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol for a limited time. Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code FOUL. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code FOUL. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code FOUL.
Well, it's funny to talk about from the hitter's perspective, but we saw an example today from the pitching perspective. John Brebbia comes in, and he has I don't know if it's a misfortune. His roster spot seems pretty fine, but Scott Harris is in the booth, in the TV booth, and he gives up a bomb. And the first thing Scott Harris says on the broadcast is actually kind of a funny moment. Scott Harris is like, "Was that a slider?" And they're like trying to get the tracking and figure it out because they're working on a changeup with him. So Scott Harris didn't want this like changeup work to like have resulted in this, like, it wasn't a monster home run, but it was, not a lot of doubt about it. And it's like, yeah, well, and then they kind of went into like the aspect of, working on pitch types and grips and, all these things. But yes, so that Scott Harris, it's not like he said anything like controversial or anything, but it was probably still a gut reaction. If he was not in the booth, he probably still would have been like, hopefully that was a slider.
Yeah, Scott's just hoping the changeup works. Yeah,
exactly.
Or we taught him this changeup. We want to be able to take credit for it. Say, hey, we were right.
Guys working on stuff, man. Like, you want to be able to throw. They want to be able to command the pitches as well. I don't just want to go up here and throw it. I want to be able to command it and throw it where I want to, when I want to. So, I've seen plenty of really good pitchers give up bombs in spring training. Matter of fact, I remember CC Sabathia one year went down to get some extra innings in a minor league game. And I think, don't quote me on it, but like he may have gave up, I don't know, 4 or 5 home runs to those guys. Those guys ain't touching him in the season. You know what I mean? Like, I'm over here. These guys are swinging first pitch. He's like, I'm working on something. Like I'm just trying to throw a strike, and you can't. Like, those guys are like, you're CC Sabathia, I got to hit you. But in the season, it won't work like that. Guys are working on stuff. So, occasionally you're going to give up a home run, and whether it's a pitch you're working on or not, it can get clapped. So
CC's gonna have a plaque in Cooperstown, so I don't think he's sweating those backfield homers too much.
I mean, come on.
Well, we got another sort of funny moment, I guess you could call it. So parlay from Scott Harris to Andrew Chafin, Scott Harris's recent signee. And we talked about it a little bit, Cody. Last time we talked about like the deal. It's minor league. It's invitation to spring training. And he went on the record to say that he's not going to go on the record, at least until he's, a member of the big league team. And he's wearing number 0. And I'm just like reading the quote. It's Chafin. I don't know if he's serious or not. You were there, Cody, real quick. Is this what is this like Chafin being Chafin, or like what's the deal?
He was serious, man. I guess everything he said was off the record, so I won't share all of it, but you could tell he was not happy to be there on a minor league deal. This is a guy who's a proven veteran. He wasn't great after the Tigers traded him at the deadline, but he's still a big league caliber left-handed pitcher. There's not much doubt about that. And so he's now here as a dude just trying to make the team. And as a result of that, and if I had to guess, I think because if he goes on the record, he knows he's going to start railing about like the free agency process and complaining probably more than is good for him. He said, "Hey guys, I'm not talking. If you want to come over here and talk off the record about non-baseball stuff, sure. Otherwise, I'm not saying anything unless I make the team, and then we can talk." So this is a veteran guy who is not happy with his situation. As a side of Andrew Chafin I'd never really seen before. I mean, he's one of the most hilarious guys I've ever covered, usually lighthearted, joking around. He'll say whatever and does not care. So we're getting a little more of a pissed off version of Andrew Chafin in camp this year, and I'm kind of excited to see how that plays out.
I mean, guys take it all these things differently, and that's one of the things I was curious about from your perspective, Austin, is that like we see it with Chafin, and then Jack Flaherty, who we saw this week, like is also a guy that happy to be here, but not necessarily happy how I got here. Is kind of like the impression I got with he thought he was going to get $100 million contract, and that obviously didn't happen. So like, what's the kind of the key to separating the business from the baseball, especially when Chafin's case, he signed and the next day he's in the clubhouse, but like he's still like feeling the, I guess you call it, ill effects of not getting the kind of deal that he would want. And then Flaherty's got to go out there after an off season of vocal disappointment. He's been on several shows talking about it. So like, in your experience, from what you understand, like what's kind of the key to making baseball and not letting like the business side, maybe disappointment, kind of let that affect like you like looking forward?
I mean, there's no separating. It's business. It's business, and so that's how I'm gonna treat it. Everything that I do, the work that I'm doing, it's all business. You know what I mean? Like I'm going in there. Obviously, you got your boys. You're gonna joke around with your boys, but when I'm putting in that work, like it's business. Like, and I'm remembering everything that anybody ever said to me when I was 2 years old, 3 years old. If you said I was too skinny, I'm using all of that for fuel. Like when I'm lifting, when I'm hitting, I'm using it as for fuel. You thought you were going to get something and it didn't happen. You think that you deserve something and it didn't happen. That's the way this game goes. Like it'll let you know real quick. You're not as bad as you think you are, but you're not as good as you think you are either. So, you got to use that as fuel. And I know I did. I know when I signed a minor league contract with the big league invite, I used it. And how we talk about how the guys view spring training. Well, I had to compete. I had to go out there and produce. I was coming off of an injury, a knee injury. So I really had to show everything. There was no just showing up and knocking rust off. No, this is me, going out and having to prove myself. Day one, first at bat, first ball hits me in the outfield because I had to prove that my body could hold up to playing just baseball again. And not only that, but I had to go out and put numbers up in spring training that don't matter or shouldn't matter, but you have to. You got to go prove yourself. And it's like you're going to have to do that every year. You have to do that every year. Unless you sign that $100 million contract, you're going to be proving yourself for the rest of your career. And that's just how it is. It's a business, so you got to treat it like that.
Yeah, Cody, I'm curious, like from your observations, AJ Hinch is a relatively unique manager in the sense that he has like real front office experience, and everybody knows him and Scott Harris are a partnership. Like anecdotally, or just kind of like what you think in terms of how he kind of handles things like this, and not even just like disappointing free agency, but lead up to trade deadline every year. It's like who's gonna get dealt, and answering questions from you guys, and then obviously he's handling it with the players. Like how is AJ Hinch at this aspect of being a manager?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit hard to say without actually being behind closed doors and actually being in on these meetings. But one thing I get the sense AJ's always done very well is be straightforward with the players. I think he makes that a priority. They meet with every guy at the start of spring, and it seems like they don't BS them. They lay out, here's what we think you're good at. Here's what you need to improve at. Here's kind of where you stand in the roster mix. And it seems like they are frank about how realistic a path guys might have to make in the team and not, when they brought in Chafin, AJ said, look, he's not going to be promised a spot. Even though this is a guy who's been on their team, who's experienced. Chafin knows what he signed up for. It seems like I think they've been frank about that. I think AJ and the coaches make a real conscious effort to not BS players. And that may be something that was learned through experience. Like AJ's talked about how he's grown since he was managed as a rookie manager in Arizona. And as a guy who played, let's not forget, AJ was in mini camps as probably the third catcher. Not real sure if he'd be going to the big leagues or if he'd be going to AAA. So it does seem, at least from my vantage point, like he has a good touch in terms of making sure guys have a realistic view of where they're at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Austin, is that something that you hear something like that and appeals to you, appeals to the player is what I was gonna say.
I mean, absolutely, because at the end of the day, if I don't have a shot, we're all grown men around here. We can handle it, and being told that you legitimately don't have a shot at this, but we want to see you. We want to see, what you can do. We want to see you go out and compete. That does just something for your morale. I mean, and on the flip side of that, knowing that you are potentially battling for a spot and you do have a chance, it just does something for you as a player just to have that honesty, being transparent with my career, because this is my career we're dealing with. And if I don't have a shot, you know what, I can handle that. I know I need to go work on some things, but also, leaving me dry and not knowing that, I'm potentially competing for a spot and I do have a chance to make a roster. It does something for you. You want to be able to have that communication with your manager, and you want them to be able to be transparent with you about where you're headed. I think that's important. I love that. And like you said, that's probably something that he had to learn, because guys were probably just getting, just thawed off, thinking that they have a chance, and the whole time they really didn't. And they're, asking themselves, what did I do wrong? I went out there and I hit 700 in spring training and I still got sit down. I went out there and I shoved when I was pitching and I still got sent down. So what's going on? And it's just good to kind of know what's going on behind the scenes, because there's so many moving parts. A lot of the times it's really not even about you. It's just about where the direction of the team is going at this moment. So just to know that, it's like, oh, okay, I can go out and relax, and I'm still going to go compete. But, I know where I'm going to be. Let me go ahead and start getting things lined up and scheduled, because that's where I'm going to be at this year. So it's good to know. And I love that for the guys, man. Like, just being able to have that communication from the top, that means a lot, man. And it just puts you at ease. Too much stuff going on. Like, it's too much anxiety already just playing the game of baseball. And when you know where you're going to be at, it just lets you go out there and focus on the game.
Yeah. I mean, so many examples come to mind. Eric Haas a couple of years ago, he had been pretty much buried in the Guardians, then Indians system. And it was like, what was that like? Did you feel like they had just labeled you as depth? And he was like, well, they never really told me that. But every meeting it was, well, just keep doing what you're doing. And it's like, okay, I do that, and then I don't get a shot in the big league. So clearly you want me to do something else.
Yeah.
Eric, and then Eric goes to a new organization, and he got his opportunity with the Tigers, and hit 20 homers that year. And then the guy in this camp, I think of Jahmai Jones. He's probably not going to make the roster. Tigers signed him on a minor league deal, but they like him. I don't think he's coming into camp with any delusion that he's making this team unless 4 guys get hurt. But if he plays well, The Tigers like what he can do against left-handed pitching. If there are a couple injuries, there's a non-zero chance he could get a shot this year. I mean, some things would have to go wrong. That wouldn't be great for the team as a whole, but like, I think they do like him and they're letting him know that, but they're also not being like, oh yeah, you can make the team if you hit 500 in spring, because he probably still wouldn't. And like,
not every job's available.
It means a lot, man. That means a lot. Like if you're telling me, like you just mentioned, like, let me know if I need to work on something. If I'm going out here and you're saying, hey, keep doing what you're doing, but nothing is really changing, then how am I ever gonna, get that opportunity to make a change? If I'm not being made aware of that. So I mean, I think it's cool. I think they all should do that. Let me know what it is that I need to work on, so I actually go work on it and not go out here and be the same player and nothing changed with my career.
Well, I get a sense that like when a manager's unpopular, it's probably either because he's actually afraid of the tough conversations, or like players feel like they're getting BS'd. I haven't heard many players complain about a manager as long as they felt like he was being straightforward. Like you said, these guys are grown men and they're athletes, and I think they, for the most part, they tend to get it. Probably not happy about being cut, but often they probably understand.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I think Detroit's got a couple examples of that. Dan Campbell being one of them over with the Lions. He's about as frank as it gets too. So in good hands there, the Tigers are. Another example of why they're in good hands with A.J. Hinch. All right, real quick, we can wrap up here with some topical news. So I mentioned being able to watch the game with Skubal's debut. That included the return of formerly Bally, now FanDuel, Detroit FanDuel, whatever they're technically calling it. Some changes, not a lot of changes, Cody, but you still got Jason, you still got Dan. Dan's still going to fill in for Jason on TV. Andy Dirks, former teammate, been mentioned a couple times on this podcast. Mm-hmm. Looks like he was like kind of a primary radio fill-in TV. Now it looks like he's going to be a primary TV guy. Dan Petrie is going to be doing both. And then Kirk Gibson, Todd Jones, and Carlos Pena will be doing TV as well. Daniela Bruce will be a sideline reporter, and then they're looking to hire a second sideline reporter. So be on the lookout for that, I guess. And on the radio, like I said, Dan Dickerson, Greg Gagne, whenever Dan is not in the radio booth. Bobby Scales, a guy that we all love, Dan Petrie, and a little bit of Andy Dirks on the radio. So not a whole lot of change, Cody, but I guess you could call it almost like a promotion for Andy, because TV is better than radio, even though I disagree. But Andy moving on up, man. Andy's moving on up.
Yeah, there are a few kind of newsy nuggets. I think the big one, Andy is going to be a primary analyst on TV. He was great at the tail end of last year, and he's kind of being rewarded for that. Daniela will be the seems like the number one sideline reporter. That's a big step up for her, but well-deserved. She's going to be a star, in my opinion. I know there's some people disappointed to see Johnny Kane not currently on the broadcast. Johnny's great too. He's a friend of mine. These positions are now under the branch of Illich Sports and Entertainment instead of FanDuel. So there's probably hints at, like Jason Benetti is a Tigers employee, not a FanDuel employee. It's probably hints that one day the Tigers are going to be controlling their own broadcast, probably getting ahead of the game in that regard. So the position that's open, Johnny, Trevor Thompson, those guys we all know, they can apply for that if they want to. We'll see. There's a lot of smoke that Johnny might prefer to be the next in line for play-by-play with the Pistons. We'll see what happens on that one. Radio crew's pretty similar. I think Bobby Scales does a great job. Let's not forget the Spanish language broadcast has grown a lot the last couple years. Started as a very small operation. They're now doing every home game, up from 45 last year. So Carlos Guillen, not the former player, but the media relations coordinator, Carlos, he does a great job. Barbara Garbe, member of the 84 Tigers. I don't understand the Spanish broadcast, but I'm told that he's actually a great analyst on there as well. Alex Avila will not be returning this year, but otherwise no new faces. So, Austin, you've talked about Andy before, but what's it like seeing this dude all over the TV now?
I mean, I think he's just a natural, man. Like even in the clubhouse, and he just had this when he spoke, he just had a certain presence about him, just a matter of fact, type of command when he spoke. I mean, he was funny because it's like he feels like he knows everything. Like I could go to him about it. It's not. I mean, it's like a fatherly figure. When I would go, and I mean, I don't know if Dirks knew what he was talking about or not, but the way he said it, like that's what we talked about. Like when Dirks is talking about the game, like he makes it seem like he knows everything about it. Like he knew exactly what they were thinking, exactly what's about that. Like he just has this presence, man. This confidence, and I love that about Dirks, man. Like I really love that he was confident when he spoke. You know, he has a very strong presence with his voice. I mean, anytime you hear him, without seeing him, you're like, that's Andy Dirks. You know, like that's Dirks. And no, I'm happy for him, man. Like he's a hard worker, and he's gonna show up each and every day. He's gonna always strive to get better, and I'm happy for him. I know he's gonna do really big things in Detroit. So.
Very enthusiastic guy. He was an enthusiastic player. He's enthusiastic on social media. He's enthusiastic in the radio or the TV booth. So I think one of the underrated like rising stars in Detroit media, other than Cody, of course. But Andy does a great job. All right, well, that was fun. A lot of fun discussions here as we wrap up the week at Tiger Territory. Reminder, you guys can follow us on all the socials, and then you can follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Now it's X, I guess, and Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. So thank you all for listening and subscribing. For Austin Jackson, Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great weekend.